in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right. The political world shaken to its core. Not really. These things happen. All right. The Attorney General is out, Pam Bondi. A lot of us had been frustrated with her for a long time. It looks like she's going to be replaced, we think, by Lee Zeldin, although that's not assured just quite yet. Lee Zeldin is currently the EPA administrator. What else here? Todd Blanche, who, in all honesty, is also frustrated, those of us in MAGA who want to see a lot of accountability for what President Trump went through. He is the interim Attorney General. So he's the interim, and Pam Bondi is already out. And now it looks like Tulsi Gabbard could be on her way out as well. Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence. They'll try to make this look like the administration is falling apart. In fact, it's the opposite. There's been very little turnover when you look at it in this administration compared to virtually any other administration. These are, for the most part, loyalists, right? And that's good. You want to have loyal people. But any administration has turnover, and this has been, there's been very little of it. I think the other thing, has been fired as Attorney General Zeldin, President Trump and Bondi before the speech last night. According to Fox, President Trump met in the Oval Office with Bondi before his speech last night. One of the sources said that by the time Trump took his place behind the podium for the address, Bondi had already lost her job and was on her way back to Florida. Bondi's firing comes after she was heavily criticized for the handling of the Epstein files. There was a lot more than the Epstein files, in my opinion, that she blew. All right. But I guess for those who really care, and there are people who really cared about those Epstein files, that was a big one. Now, do me a favor, Carlos. Still, go ahead and turn that around. This is Pam Bondi blowing it on the Epstein files. I think she blew it on the prosecutions of these guys. I think she blew it on the prosecution of, say, Letitia James and what she did to President Trump and that phony case. You can actually bring charges against them. I know that the legal community, the established legal community, the American Bar Association, all of those entities will be aghast, and they will write letters, and they will exile you and all those things. It doesn't mean they're right. And many of us felt that Pam Bondi was too worried about that world, too worried about what other lawyers would think about her and say about her. The law doesn't have an opinion, right? The law, that's what she should have been thinking about. What does the law say? And also, what can I do to protect and serve this president? Because protecting and serving the president is not a bad thing. All right. The president deserves that. The executive branch of government deserves that. And looking at her, sometimes she was just a little bit too impassioned in making the defense. The last time, she really kind of made a fool out of herself the last time she was on Capitol Hill. Do you remember that? It's funny. It's funny. You go there and you think you're going to be cartoonishly obsequious, and it blows up in the face. President Trump doesn't want that. He wants smart. All right, he wants clever. He doesn't want everybody picking fights over the fake news. He wants people to be smart. And I think this is something else. She showed herself to be not so smart. Here she is from the middle of that Epstein stuff. Go ahead.
The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe. We should be talking about, what does a Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
Committee will be in order.
Mr. Jordan, am I going to get an extra 45 seconds added to my time?
The committee will be in order. The time belongs to the gentleman from Texas. Ms. Bondi, the Attorney General can respond.
Thank you. The Dow has shattered 50,000 for the first time. This is crazy. They said it couldn't be done in 4 years, yet President Trump has done it in 1 year.
Well, you're the Attorney General. And that really doesn't mean anything to you, right? That's not really, why would you say something that's stupid? That was dumb. Now, I just see that President Trump, it looks to me like they just drove off together. If that was today or some other time, but there's footage of them in the limo together. I can't believe that was today because she got fired last night. That must be what they call file footage. And I said at the time that was not strong performance. She looked ridiculous. And I'm going to look it up. I think I said at the time that maybe it's time for her to go, to move along. Do me a favor. We're going to get our friend Joel Gilbert. He's been kind of predicting this way before anyone else. He was very frustrated that she was chosen to begin with. Let's see. Just skipping around the conservative world here. I see applause. I see more applause than tears. Okay. I see a lot more applause than tears. I would like to tell you a little bit about my friend, Brandon Straka. You familiar with Brandon Straka? Brandon is a great guy, a conservative who famously walked away from the Democrat Party a bunch of years ago because, well, he caught them in a lie. He caught them lying, and he was a Democrat. And he was like, there's something, no. And he started a movement. It's called the Walk Away campaign. Walk away from the Democrat Party. And it really changed things. He was very good at getting out the vote, very good at organization, and very loyal to President Trump, and he helped make a difference. So he's a little bit frustrated about things that are happening in MAGA. And some of this stuff has received a little bit too much attention, but you know what I'm talking about, right? The Tucker stuff, Tucker's at war with this guy, that guy's at war with that guy, Megyn Kelly's at war with everybody, right? All that stuff, and what's her name? Candace Owens and the rest of it. It's kind of toxic. And quite frankly, I've spoken about it myself. I came out against Pete Hegseth in 2024 when he was nominated for that job as Secretary of Defense. I said President Trump can do better. Pete, this is not his time. And I didn't say this right away. Not to say that I didn't think it, but all right. Look, when President Trump named Pete Hegseth, because I know Pete Hegseth, I kind of rolled my eyes. I'm like, oh boy, you got to be kidding me. This guy, he's all right, whatever. President Trump gets to make his pick. And I thought about it. I said, well, look, what's the upside here? Pete Hegseth is the only guy I know who has called out publicly for C.Q. Brown's termination. C.Q. Brown at the time was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And he said, you know what? He should be fired. And I'm like, there aren't many people who are willing to do that. In large part because C.Q. Brown is black. And people did not want to take him on, crazily enough. I don't think of the world that way. You don't think of the world that way. Well, fortunately, Pete Hegseth didn't see the world that way. He said, this guy needs to be fired. And I really kind of leaned into that. But guess what? I think, that was more special than I realized. It was something that I could focus on, but I thought a lot of people would fire C.Q. Brown. Realized that's actually probably not true. So I really leaned into that. And then then it came out that he paid off a person who accused him of sexual assault, paid her $50,000 so she wouldn't tell her story to his wife and his employer. She blackmailed him. And even after that, I'm like, well, geez, crap, damn, that's something I would never do, but I can't believe he's still nominated. It seems to me like he should withdraw, but I didn't say that publicly. And then finally it happened. An email was leaked that his mother wrote to him, calling him a bad man and a bad person and calling him out for all of his sexual this, that, and the other thing all over town and screwing around on his wives. And I said, given what I know, given what we know, and given what his mom said, he can't be Secretary of Defense. And I came out and I said that. And I said it gently. I said it like, look, Pete is definitely a talented guy, and there is talent there. But given all of this, he shouldn't be Secretary of Defense right now. Maybe there's a lesser job, but something else. And someday he can be senator. Someday he can run for something. Someday, but this is too big of a job for him right now. Well, and I said it nicely, and I said it with respect, actually. A chunk of MAGA, basically the podcast bros, freak out, and they went bananas on me. Cancel Greg Kelly. We're never watching him again. Screw that guy. Now, that made me angry. It made me angrier because I had been nice about it. And then I said, you know what? Maybe I'll say it again, and maybe I'll be a bit meaner about it. If you guys are going to talk to me like that, huh? If you guys are going to pretend that Pete Hegseth gave a damn about the January 6ers, gave a damn about election integrity, gave a damn about President Trump during his years in the wilderness, right? And Pete's always been about Pete. And then I kept doubling down. I said, screw it. This guy's not qualified. I got angrier and angrier and angrier. And I kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And I would look at that mother's letter. I said, how in the world can a man like this show his face in public, let alone be the Secretary of Defense? And this is beyond, the fake news doesn't like him. I got to tell you, again, going back to the January 6th thing, I lost sleep for those guys. I saw Ashley Babbitt murdered on TV. And not to toot my own horn here, but I couldn't believe how few people out there could recognize the injustice and wouldn't stand up and scream and shout about it. Pete Hegseth was one of those guys. All right. I'm not saying I'm Mr. Selfless. I worry about my career. I worry about my audience, but you also have to do the right thing. And too many alleged MAGA people kept their mouths shut when they should have been screaming and shouting. And one of them was Hegseth. Whatever. He gets confirmed. Barely. Vance has to break the tie. And I'm like, okay, he's the Secretary of Defense. I said my piece. Let's see what happens. I gave him my support, and I said, if I could ever help, I'm only a phone call away. I think it was important to just kind of offer that, whatever. And then I saw something that really made me even angrier. Hegseth was set up by the deep state. That whole Signalgate thing, that was a hit job by the deep state. They were trying to take him out, and that made me even angrier than the first stuff. Okay, he's under fire, whatever, but he is the Secretary of Defense. How the hell can you guys try to do this to him? And it was a setup by the deep state. The CISA thing, it was all a scam. Then he gave that speech to Quantico, and I thought, hey, that was a great speech. Got all the generals in the room. The headline was he went after woke culture. But what was missed, and I picked up, is he said, we, as the military, cannot be risk-averse. For too long, we've been risk-averse. The way to get promoted is not make mistakes. The way to not make mistakes is to not do anything. And I'm like, damn, somebody needed to say this, and he's saying it. I was impressed. Good. And then the situation with Iran starts, and he starts acting like a freaking fourth grader. All right, shooting his mouth off, trash-talking the Iranians, all this crazy stuff. It was unprofessional. And I'm like, I'm not going to, all right, he's reminding me who he is. He's reminding me why I didn't think the guy was worthy of this job in the first place. Why the hell am I talking about all this? Oh, yeah, the helicopter stunt outside of Kid Rock's house. You know, let me tell you something. Anybody in the audience who has ever signed for an aircraft and been the pilot in command of a military airplane, please call me and disagree with me, because I know that anyone who's ever done that will not. You can't take the U.S. property, United States property, and conduct a political stunt for Kid Rock so he has a backdrop with which to slam Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is the most slammable guy in the world. You can't do stunts for fun with military aircraft, all right, unless you want to be an air show pilot, and that's a whole other ball of wax, and there's a way to do it, and you got to apply, you got to train, you got to do it. Right? You don't go screwing around outside a Kid Rock swimming pool, or Madonna's, or Robert De Niro, or Billie Eilish, or Bruce Springsteen. And Hegseth, of course, gets involved, right? Because anything that's popular with what he sees as what MAGA wants, right? But I don't think he speaks for MAGA. I know he doesn't speak for MAGA. So I think he's a train wreck. Anyway, that brings me to Brandon Straka. Because I think all right, Brandon Straka, right after the break, he gave one of the most important speeches of the past year by anybody who's not the president of the United States. It's important, all right? We'll be right back with that.
Greg Kelly on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Okay, we have it, I guess, extra official from President Trump himself on Truth Social. He just put this up on that little Truth. Yeah, Truth Social. It's very interesting. If you get it, you will basically kind of know what's on President Trump's mind. And he puts a lot of postings out, a lot of musings, but this is very specific here. All right, 7 minutes ago, Donald J. Trump. Pam Bondi is a great American patriot and a loyal friend who faithfully served as my attorney general over the past year. Pam did a tremendous job overseeing a massive crackdown in crime across our country, with murders plummeting to their lowest level since 1900. We love Pam, and she will be transitioning to a much-needed and important new job in the private sector to be announced at a date in the near future. And our Deputy Attorney General and a very talented and respected legal mind, Todd Blanche, will step in to serve as Acting Attorney General. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. All right, that's it. She's out, and I do think it had a thing to do with a couple of things. Number one, the ridiculous testimony that we just played for you a little while ago. The child porn stuff that she said was the reason why they were not releasing the Epstein files more fully. And that turned out not to be the case. Look, it's not my passion project, the Epstein thing. I think it's all a hoax, but a lot of people are really obsessed with it, and she botched that whole thing. And also, I mean, in a weird way, and I don't think this entered President Trump's thinking, George Zimmerman, the guy who was falsely accused of murdering Trayvon Martin, maybe, the truth is all coming out. She indicted that guy, apparently knowing he was innocent. But I don't think that was on Trump's mind. What was on President Trump's mind? The failure to aggressively go after those who waged illegal lawfare against him. People like Alvin Bragg, people like Tish James, people like James Comey and Brennan and the rest. Now, a case was brought against Brennan, but it was a weak case. I'm sorry, Comey, but it was a weak case. And it was thrown out. And, she's just not that aggressive. She's just not that good a lawyer. And my old theory, when you think too much about what you look like, you can't do a good job, or it's an indicator that you're not doing a good job. Kind of like Gavin Newsom. Looks great in a suit. How the hell do you maintain that kind of physique at that age? He's 57 years old, unless he's on cocaine. And there's a really good chance that Gavin Newsom is on cocaine. The whole look tells me he's on cocaine, and he's always scratching his nose. I'm not saying Pam Bondi's on cocaine, but I'm saying that she does spend a lot of time at the spa, a lot of time trying on clothes. Joe Biden was kind of the same way. How can you be that slim at that age? So it just shows a certain vanity, and when you're vain, you can't really roll up your sleeves and get things done. And sometimes you got to look like a jerk. To get things done, you got to look like a jerk. And she wasn't willing to look like a jerk. And in the end, she looked like a jerk.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe.
All right.
We should be talking.
That was embarrassing. The Attorney General of the United States. And you know what? As conservatives, we react to information. We don't have blinders on, and we encourage independent thinking. The Democrats, they'll see a performance like that or on their side, and they'll pretend it was normal. They'll pretend it was good. We don't do that. Anyway, listen, I got a lot of thoughts here. Pam Bondi is out. I think it's a net positive big time, but I'd like to bring in Joe DeGenova, the former U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., and nobody knows Washington like he does, and he's very close to Trump over the years and has done work on his behalf. And Joe DeGenova, what is your reaction to Pam Bondi as Attorney General? She is out, fired.
Well, this was inevitable. She has no gravitas. Her performance in office was very poor. The president does not like people who do not have a command presence. She did not have a command presence. And one of the reasons she didn't was that she had no federal law enforcement experience. She went in there with no support whatsoever from the department. And one of the reasons is she hadn't earned it. She's not the type of person who encourages confidence. And her performance on Capitol Hill was a disaster, of course. The president didn't like it at all. And that's because she was never right for this job. She simply did not have the chops that you have to be Attorney General of the United States. And she interfered in the weaponization investigations. I, for example, had worked for almost a year with the incoming U.S. Attorney, Jason Quinones, to set up investigations to be ready to go. I was supposed to be hired to be the lead prosecutor down in Florida, and she nixed it. Bonnie didn't want me to be a part of it because she didn't want anybody with a name. So she lost months in those investigations down there, and that is a direct result of her interfering in the weaponization process.
You know, I think back to when she was nominated. Of course, Matt Gaetz, his nomination was pulled. When her name was entered, as I recall, even the left, the establishment in Washington said, yeah, this is okay. She has the experience. You know, this is a reasonable appointment. And thinking back, they really did not oppose her. They thought it was going to be a given. Did they want somebody like this? Somebody without the stature, somebody without the command, somebody that they could own, somebody that they could thwart easily. Do you remember that? Is that one of the reasons why they went along?
Greg, as usual, you're absolutely right. I remember it because I had been contacted by a group of lawyers outside the administration during that process wanting to know if I would like to be Attorney General. And I said, of course. I said, feel free to put my name in the mix. But, of course, it wasn't going to happen because the Florida Mafia was going to be in control of everything. Now, one good thing did happen. They hired Todd Blanche to be Deputy Attorney General. Todd Blanche is a fabulous lawyer, a great litigator, a former assistant U.S. attorney from either the Southern District or the Eastern District of New York. So the department is in good hands. I would say that the department is now in better hands while he's interim Attorney General. But, Lee Zeldin seems to be a pretty smart guy, but he's never been a federal prosecutor, and I just hope that he keeps Todd Blanche and does not replace him, because if he replaces him, it's going to be a nightmare. They need people who've been in the department, who know how to run it, who know how to do big cases, and they don't have enough people like that.
Why is it so important here? Like, we have other branches, we have a Secretary of the Navy, Army, we have who've never been in the military. You see that all the time, but it seems like it's really, really, really important that you serve as a prosecutor before being a DOJ, a federal prosecutor, not a local prosecutor. And I think, what's his name? Zeldin was a local prosecutor at some point. Why is it so important? Why is it so critical?
Because the expectations for the Justice Department and the Attorney General are very high. And that is a very, very good thing, that we have high standards for the people who hold that office. The power to investigate is the power to destroy. Look what Garland did to Donald Trump. Look what Obama did to Donald Trump by abusing the Justice Department. So if you're going to put somebody in there now to investigate weaponization, it should be somebody who is sophisticated, who's done complex criminal investigations, who can get up in front of a microphone and answer questions, not run from them. I mean, there's radio silence out of Miami and Fort Pierce, where these investigations allegedly are going on. Well, that's fine. There should be silence because it's a grand jury. But nobody has any idea what's going on down there, and they wonder why the base is upset. You can't have radio silence on something that's this important to the president, to the country, that people cannot forget. For 9 years, Democratic prosecutors and Barack Obama and Joe Biden tried to destroy an incoming president and a sitting president of the United States. It is a scandal of immense proportions. And unless those cases are handled properly in Florida, it will go unnoticed in history.
And one of the reasons why they get away with it, Obama and the rest, and what they did, I think part of it is the illegal establishment, the nature of it, the nature of the media. Like, look, the institutions, the establishment, the people who matter, they think Trump is a bad guy. And that rubs off on lawyers. You got to be a very independent, unique kind of person to be impervious to that kind of smack talk, because it is smack talk. And they rely on emotionalism. Like, somehow they have convinced themselves that this is a righteous cause to get Trump. And I feel like Pam, deep down, if we gave her the truth serum, would be more in line with Obama than Trump.
Well, I can tell you this. She didn't have the chops for the job. She didn't have it in her belly. She didn't understand what the mission was. And that's because she was inexperienced. You do not put somebody like that in a job like the Attorney General just because she was part of the voluminous impeachment defense team doesn't mean squat. And state attorneys generals are a dime a dozen. There are 50 of them, and 51 counting the District of Columbia. But the bottom line is this. That can prepare you if you're from a big state and you've got complex issues. She didn't have that experience, and it showed. And by the way, gravitas matters. When you get up in front of a microphone and you represent the people of the United States, you better look and sound good. She didn't. I don't care what her hairstyle was or her dress or her pantsuits or all that stuff. You got to know what you're talking about, and she didn't.
And here's an example of that. I mean, this was mortifying. Go ahead. The Attorney General before the Judiciary Committee, for crying out loud.
The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
And the NASDAQ smashing records.
And you know what's pathetic? I mean, she thinks that if I just say this aggressively enough, Trump will like it. Trump is smart. He's a genius smart, and he wants his people to be impressive. And that was that was lower than amateur. It was pathetic.
Yeah, she's all hat and no horse. And that's the problem. And that's not what this job is about. I was deeply offended by the fact that such a tremendous amount of work by very smart former agents, former prosecutors went into trying to help the people in Florida put together the weaponization cases against Obama and Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Eric Ciaramella, the CIA guy who started the whole thing, whose name should be included in all of these indictments as they come up. Bottom line is this. She didn't even understand that.
Well, it's amazing. Is there enough time for Lee Zeldin, whoever it is, to, make a difference going forward? Are we going to have the accountability that we deserve, that history that America deserves? I
would say that if Florida does not come up with some indictments within the next 2 to 3 months, it will have all been lost.
Oh, boy. Well, that does not sound good. That does not sound good. But it's a major step in the right direction. And
it is that. Zeldin better be ready for a rough ride, though. I mean, he's got his big boy pants on. He's had people trying to destroy him inside the EPA. I mean, the EPA is just full of nutbag leftist climatologists. They're screwballs. But he's never seen anything like the people inside the Justice Department, the careerists who are Democrats, who despise Trump and who think that going after him the way they did was just fine. Listen, there are more Jack Smiths inside the Justice Department today than there were before this administration started.
Oh, my gosh. Real quick, serious question. Would you be available to serve as Attorney General if President Trump called and asked, and do you think you're confirmable?
Well, of course I would. You would never turn down a president for the offer. Am I confirmable? Sure. I've been confirmed before as United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, and there would be no reason not to confirm me.
Well, I love it. I love it. And I think I'm going to get the word out again. You know what? Sometimes Joe DeGeneva and his wife, Victoria Tensing, you guys are total patriots, total pros. I so appreciate you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Greg. Great to talk to you.
Happy Easter. Happy Easter. Yes, we're here in no time. Thank you, Joe. Wow, what a guy. This is actually exciting. All right, we can still pull it off. Hey, any update on those guys on their way to the moon? Are they in orbit or are they at the moon yet? Do you know, Carlos? Where the hell are they? Well, we got to find out. All right, I'm worried about them. We'll be right back with more. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hello. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. I would like to hear a little bit from the speech of my friend Brandon Straka recently at CPAC. Let's listen, everybody. Very important words from Brandon. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, CPAC. It's always good to be here with people who still believe in this country, even when it is not easy. Because let's be honest, this is not an easy moment for our movement. There's energy, there's passion, there's momentum, but there's also something else. There's frustration, there's division, and there's a growing sense that something doesn't feel right, that the right is not all right. And if we don't address that honestly, we're doomed. I have become, for many people, a symbol of changing one's mind, for standing up for one's principles against tyrannical mobs of ideologues and for fighting for the truth. I am the former liberal who walked away from the Democratic Party and created the first and most successful national movement of former liberals walking away from the anti-American left. To date, over 1 million people have joined Walkaway, and over 100,000 people have shared their Walkaway testimonials with us. I walked away back in 2017 for many reasons, but the bottom line is that existing on the left became intolerable. Asking questions became forbidden, and in fact often met with anger, contempt, and vicious backlash. Expressing support for somebody the left deemed to be canceled was a one-way ticket to getting canceled yourself. And daring to express an opinion outside the approved narrative and belief system would ensure that my former side would label me a racist, a bigot, or some sort of morally bankrupt submissive to the cause. When I came over to the right back in 2018, I was exhilarated. After years of feeling suffocated, stifled, and oftentimes bullied by my fellow liberals, I felt that I had finally found the promised land on the right, a place where I could tell the truth, express my opinions openly, and disagree with others without being disagreeable. Where a difference of opinion didn't turn into an attack on someone's character or their right to exist within the movement. What a refreshing change after being pushed out of a movement, overtaken by mob rule of mindless apparatchiks who would gladly destroy anybody who questions the status quo. That's how I felt from 2017 through 2020. But the truth is, I don't feel that way anymore. In the past year, a great divide has taken place in the MAGA movement. The movement has been split. This divide is ideological, it's tribal, it's fanatical, it's doctrinal, it's irrationally emotional, it's generational, and in fact, if you're getting most of your news from Fox News or Facebook, there's a good chance you probably don't even know what I'm talking about right now. But perhaps most distressing of all, it's personal. Every day now, I watch as friends and former friends, colleagues, allies, and followers of mine participate in savage character assassinations of people who 1 year ago they considered heroes to our movement. But even worse, there's now a demand that everyone must participate, that if we're truly moral, truly good, and true patriots, we must take a side in this divide. 5 years ago, the FBI raided my home, put me in handcuffs, and charged me with multiple felonies based on 100% false claims against me related to being outside of the Capitol on January 6th. On that day, my life became a brutal nightmare, and that nightmare went on for 4 years. During that time, at least half of the conservative movement turned their backs on me. I watched as the very same people who clamored to be in my spotlight suddenly didn't know who I was anymore. And despite the fact that I was completely innocent, many Republican elected officials would no longer meet with me or take my calls. Many TV shows would no longer have me on. And suffice it to say, it was a challenge to find high-profile people within our movement willing to support me and stick their necks out for me. Now, to be clear, many people did stand up for me. Noble and honorable people, people with integrity, decency, and good character. And when I look back on that time, when I desperately needed friends, allies, and support, the two men of highest stature within the movement who did not close their doors on me, who had me on their shows and gave me a platform and a voice when I needed it the most, were Mark Levin and Tucker Carlson. And now I'm being told I must choose between these two men.
It's great stuff, and it goes on for a while. I'm going to play the rest of it on the other side, and it captures a lot of what I am I'm feeling, actually. So 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Yes, Charlie, hello.
Yep, you got sidetracked. I know you're a great supporter of Pete Hegseth.
No, I'm not.
Can you clarify your position?
No, wait. Charlie, wait a second. I don't know, you playing games here or not. I'm not. I already told you that. I mean, I basically said everything there was to say. What else do you want me to say? He's not qualified. He's not worthy. And it's one less voice for President Trump to listen to. And he can only fit so many people in the room. All right? So what do you want to know?
Well, so do you change your assessment of Pete Hegseth?
Well, not really. I've been consistent, totally consistent. All right. I opposed him for a number of reasons. You can look it up. I said it on this show. I said it on other shows. I wrote about it. He gets confirmed. I'm like, okay, well, let's see what he's got. Two things happened. Number one, he was victimized, I think, by the deep state and CISA, right? That whole Signalgate thing, that was a set-up con job. And he gave a great speech. And more than a speech, he really tried to change the culture of the military. And also encouraging it not to be so risk-averse, which I liked. But right now, he is not a wartime consigliere. He is in way over his head, and I think it's kind of dangerous. So that's the story, Charlie. I take it you're a big fan or something like that?
I just thought there needed to be some further clarification.
Further clarification. I don't know. This guy's got a network or something like that. Oh, my gosh. I really go back to what this guy's saying about how nobody stood up for him. A January 6th guy. I had Brandon Strzok on my show after January 6th. All right? Hegseth has never stuck his neck out for anybody. And he comes back from Afghanistan and runs for the Senate the very next day. Such a weird guy. Let me ask you something. You ever pay off a woman who accused you of sexual violence, Charlie?
No.
Neither have I. And I never would. If I was innocent, we don't do that. And he did. He's blackmailable. I am so sick of this guy, and I'm so sick of the game. And I'm so sick on X. Let's all hear it for Pete Hegseth. Give a thumbs up if you support Patriot Pete Hegseth and all these people. I stand with Pete Hegseth. No, you don't. You know what you're talking about. I spent 9 years on active duty. I care about the military. I have more invested in that military than he does, believe me. All right, Charlie, I'll see you later. There's the music. We'll be right back with more of that great big speech, the Pam Bondi news, the potential Tulsi Gabbard news, and so much more.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?